Okay, well, it takes care of that. Thanks everybody for coming first off. I think I know everybody in the room has got Bakra with HCF. We are recording this. There are some kids on, some girls on different teams that aren't able to make it. So that's the main reason for recording it. We're also going to try to share it for future generations or for other kids that are growing up. But again, thanks for coming. We got a great group. One of the reasons that we're doing this is it's been done in the past, but it's been done a few years ago. So we're having a new generation come through. And we think it's really important for our older, more experienced players to provide some feedback, because navigating youth hockey, whether it's girls or youth, can be very confusing. There's so many different things that are going on, so many different directions that you're being pulled. Hearing from people who went through the process, I think it's a very educational aspect. Just to do a little bit of background on what's on the board. Some of this, we have the boys meeting right after this, so some of this is targeted to girls, some of it's more on the boys side, but really what we're trying to show is that path from 6U all the way up to wherever you want to go. College hockey being pretty high on the list. Anything that's underlined in green is a national bound team. So there's national tournaments, state, district, nationals to get there. Everything with the, I mean, it's kind of a star, it's a line star, are specifically girls teams. Whether that's in the state, that run through the state or run through local programs. This coming year, and please correct me if I'm wrong, there is no 14U Tier 1 girls team. The Tier 1 teams, the Tier 1 teams this coming year are being hosted by different organizations. But moving forward, they are planning on having Asha take over those like they do the boys team. So everything Tier 2 and lower, we handle it at a local level, but the Tier 1 teams are predominantly run by Asha. So further ado then, I'm going to introduce our moderator, which I'm sure everybody in this room knows well. Okay.
First off, good evening, welcome to our girls roundtable discussion. Our goal tonight is to provide information to young hockey players on how to navigate the various paths that are available to them as they get older through some experiences of girls that have already gone through the process. With us tonight, 5 women who all grew up here in Fairbanks, Alaska, and represent a wide range of competitive and collegiate playing experiences. So that being said, we'll let the panel introduce themselves.
Me first.
You first.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Nona Lithuanian. I'm Coney's younger sister. I started playing hockey about 4, I guess skating. And then I transitioned fully to girls hockey at the age of 15. Growing up in Fairbanks, I played pretty much every, I think Kiana too, maybe any type of team. I played boys, I played high school boys, I played Icebreakers, and then I played for the Firebirds in Anchorage, the North Stars in Anchorage. So a lot of different teams in Alaska. I left Fairbanks when I was 15 and went to a school called NAHA, North American Hockey Academy in Stowe, Vermont. And that's where I played high school, sophomore, junior, senior year. And then I ended up playing college at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute in Troy, New York, which was Division I, and we were in the same division as like all the Ivy League teams. So, and I got my degree in business management and communications.
My name is Kiana Nauheim. I started playing hockey probably about 3 or 4 as well. Very similar to Nona. I played just about everything you could think of in the state of Alaska. I played Arctic Lions till the age of 14. 14, I switched over to the Icebreakers. At 15, I went out of state to prep school called Brewster Academy in New Hampshire. All simultaneously, I would come back and play Team Alaska and Icebreakers those years too. So I played a lot, various. And then I went to the University of Connecticut, and it's Division I in Hockey East, and got a degree in animal science.
I'm Erin Winters. I started playing hockey about 5 and transitioned to girls hockey at 10. I played for Baja until I was 10, and then Icebreakers, Team Alaska, Arctic Bears girls high school team. I went to school at Adrian College, which was Division III. for a year, and then I played for the UAF Women's Club team here for Scott for 3 years and got my degree in business administration.
My name is Lighty. I started playing when I was 4 years old. I transitioned to boys hockey when I was 9. What else? I played ice puppies, icebreakers, Arctic bears, grizzlies. So I also played quite a bit. And then I left the state to play juniors when I was 17 for my senior year in high school. So I played for the Northern Cyclones in the NEWJHL in New Hampshire. It was only a league for about 3 years, but the Cyclones are still a team, just different conference. And then I played Division I hockey at Bemidji State University in northern Minnesota. I played my freshman, sophomore years there, and then I transferred back to UAF. So I got my Associate of Arts in Bemidji, my Business Administration Bachelor's here, and my Master's of Business Administration here at UAF.
I'm Danae Bizona. I started playing hockey when I was 5. And I transitioned to girls hockey at the age, I think I was the second year, 12. And I didn't have to go out of state for any playing experience youth, which was nice, in my circumstances, because we had enough girls all through my high school senior year to play all the way up until I left for college, which was a really awesome experience and one that not a lot of us had the opportunity to do or take advantage of. Let's see. And then I went to college, or I played icebreakers. Coney coached me for like 6 years, so that was pretty much my whole experience growing up playing hockey in the girls program. And then I went to Endicott College in Massachusetts, which is a D3 program in the Colonial Hockey Conference. And my degree is in communications.
So as you can tell, lots and lots of hockey experience on the panel today. So I guess first question for us is, having played both boys and girls hockey, what are some of the differences that you guys have seen with your experiences that you've had, both pros and cons?
Oh, I also played Arctic Bears.
Thanks for adding that.
I'll tackle this one first. I feel like it's just gonna be us kind of stuck. So I played boys hockey for I think maybe 5 years. And then I switched to girls. Honestly, I didn't make the boys team, and I tried out for 10 U girls, and I actually made 12 U. So I had Fox as a coach. But I think boys hockey is really good for girls. It's really challenging, and it allows you to kind of be a little bit tougher. They might be a little bit bigger and stronger, so it's kind of nice to like work with them, and you can keep up with them. If you can keep up with them, then you should play with them. It's kind of nice. But it's a really good challenge. But then once they do get old enough to hit, it's just a very different game from boys to girls, I think. You have to play defense different, forward. Like, I think every position is just played quite a bit different. So then at that point, it would be probably a good idea to change. And then also, if you want to play college hockey, it's probably a good idea to play girls. That way you can go to all the tournaments that they're going to be going to. You can go to all the camp, like you can go all the places that they would be going to anyways, the coaches and the scouts and all that. So I would just say, yeah. Some of the differences. I think also the main difference is like in boys hockey, you don't at a certain point, you don't get to be in the locker room. You don't get to be fully a part of the team. So I think that was the main thing of when I switched to girls hockey. I realized like I love hockey, but I started like really enjoying the time with my team when I switched over to girls. So that was like a huge benefit. And like I played with Danae for so long, and we still like are friends, and all of us are hanging out still. And so it's like I think that was a big part of switching over to girls, was I gotta be a part of the team. It's all like not like I wasn't in boys speaking of.
I'll add to that. I played hockey or boys hockey. I played Bantam A's in the 8th grade, and then I played for Lathrop as a 14-year-old playing with like 18-year-old boys and just getting absolutely killed, like open ice all the time. And so I think for me, what was good for me to play boys hockey was that it taught me to keep my head up. It was a way faster paced game. And it kind of, I never had played systems before I played, for Lathrop. That's just not something that we were ever taught kind of growing up playing girls. So I think for me, it was more systematic, positional play. You're way more physical, it's way faster. And those are the pros of playing boys hockey, but then I would say the cons for that was like, I went to college and I was constantly trying to dump the puck. Like I was too scared to hang on to the puck because knew that someone was gonna probably come hit me soon. So for me, transitioning to girls hockey and going to play at Naha in high school, I learned how to hang on to the puck longer, and make smarter plays, but I had my head up the whole time. Whereas like sometimes when you're in girls, you don't always have your head up. So that's just like some pros and cons that I had, hockey wise and positioning wise and system wise that I learned between the two differences.
Anybody else? Do you notice any difference in like roles on either one of the teams, like special teams or like leadership roles or any of those types of things?
I wouldn't say I noticed like different in roles, but it's kind of like both what they said, you develop, maybe, I think you might develop faster with the goalies because you have to, and they're growing and developing faster, but then you reach the point of, just at 14, and you know, it's all of a sudden it's like a possibility of a 200-pound guy coming at you, charging you. And so when you make that transition from boys to girls, you start learning that, oh, I can't hold on to the puck. And so once you transition, you're like, oh, now I can really develop my skills because I'm not worried about getting the puck and dumping it. So maybe I can hold on to it for an extra second, make that move, get that shot instead of pure panicking. So it's like the beginning skills you get maybe quicker with boys, you know, skills that you learn to finesse is when you get to the girls. I definitely notice a difference that personally with my team.
Thanks, guys. Next question. There was a lot of you guys that had ventured outside of the state of Alaska to continue further on your career. What was some of the reason behind leaving the state of Alaska to play? And how did you decide, or what went in the decision-making process of picking the prep school that you went to, or the academy, or whatever team you went
It's always inside my door, sorry.
there? Okay.
For me, I was a 91, a late 91, so I was in between age groups for the rest of the girls that I played growing up with. So basically, I didn't have a team when I was done playing my second year 12U. The next age group, which was, I think, Aaron and the rest of the 08s, they were all 16. So I was 12 turning 13 on the 16U icebreakers. So it was just hard for me to find a middle kind of ground, just in Fairbanks in general. I just kind of got unlucky with when I was born, I guess. But that was mostly my reason for leaving. But then also there was a bunch of girls who had already went to Naha ahead of me, such as Randy Motzko, Ashley Norm, Teal Bishop, and they were all girls that were 3 to 5 years ahead of me, and they were all going to go play college hockey, and that's what I wanted to do. So then when the opportunity arose for me to go to Naha, and there was a spot for me, I was lucky enough to be able to go there.
Kiana, for you, because you went to prep school, how did you decide to go prep school versus academy versus just a team that was outside?
The short of it is we went to one of the national camps that they have every year. And my parents met parents, and that's how it kind of became a thing. I had no really interest in leaving at the time, but they met parents and it became like the thing to do, as people I hear all the time. And then we had just, I think on icebreakers, we did just have like a national bound team and did really well in my 14U, and kind of like with Nova, things were up in the air on what we were gonna end up doing the next couple of years. So they just started doing their research because they met people that were in the New England preparatory school for hockey and stuff. So that's really kind of focused. I don't think we particularly liked how the school kind of had to do it with the schools. So they wanted like a full-time school. So
It was a
that's how
trailer in the backyard. School at Naha was a trailer in the backyard.
So we chose the New England school because they do play in a New England league that sees all the basically East Coast colleges will see there are all these big tournaments. And so if
that's where the majority of the women's college hockey teams are, especially D1 are, so we wanted to be noticed by those programs. So that's kind of how I ended up at there after just doing research, what fit, then we went on visits, we planned a trip where we just went and visited like 5 or 6 schools that we were most interested in. That's how I picked that. Every year I was there, I ended up playing for a team back in Fairbanks, so.
And we appreciate it.
So, yeah, I got a lot of hockey in.
Anybody else with outside hockey experience?
I had a different, I guess I would be like that third option. I played for a team. So I did best online schooling through Fairbanks. So I graduated back in Fairbanks and I did online schooling the entire time. So I just played for a junior team. And the reason why I decided to play out my senior year is like I was in the same age group as today. I didn't need to. I had a team here and that would have been great. But I committed to Bemidji State early my junior year. And when I committed, they mentioned that it would be really good for me to play outside because I've always had the same coaches, I always played the same girls. And I think we kind of agreed that if I wanted to play as a freshman, it might be a good idea. And it would help with the transition going into college and being entirely on my own and all that. So I actually had the coaches reach out directly to me. I think they had, one of the coaches had previously coached Courtney Evans at an academy. And so they had reached out to me. I think I had like 2 other options, maybe, or college coaches recommended school in Saskatchewan that was not gonna work for me and what my family wanted. So we just kind of went and tried to find something else that worked for us, and it ended up being great. I was able to go to school and play all of the games. We had so many more games than I would have gotten here, so it was nice. I got different coaching. I really liked my coaches. It was just a really good experience. And I did end up playing freshman year, so I think that was the main goal of just to get a different experience and all of that. But it was truly just a team, and then did online schooling while I was there.
For the questions that we get a lot from parents and players is what off season should look like, and what you should do in the summertime. So first question is, were you a multi-sport athlete? If so, what sports did you play? Second piece is, what did your off-season workout program look like before you got to college? I'm guessing it changed once you hit college.
For me personally, I was a multi-sport athlete. I played soccer all summer long. Sometimes I played soccer, indoor soccer, sometimes hockey. I guess prior to, like in high school, my early years leading up to like maybe freshman year of high school, it was like as many camps as you can get into in the summer. Really locally, as soon as I hit about 14, I was doing camps locally, as well as my parents would find, camps outside, because there's also, those camps are usually run at universities that are ran by, potential future college coaches, which college coaches also visit through high school. So I did the sports. My dad also made me shoot $100 every day during the summer. Girls in their shots. So there was that. And then when I did start Brewster, my prep school, they would actually send us summer workout programs that we were supposed to follow because you get tested each spring of every year. And then that also, which worked out well because it led up to college, which as soon as you sign up for, or you agree to a college, they send you in your training program and it like starts that day. So it prepares you for that.
So same as Kiana, I did multiple sports. I did track and field all through high school, in addition to hockey. Tons of camps in the summer. I think when I was 14 or 15, we started doing camps in Fairbanks, and we would go to Vermont. There was a big camp there, and did a couple in Canada, I think. But in addition to that, we had a coach that would run biometrics. And so we would meet them like once or twice a week at the track, go through a training program with that. And then the summer before college started, like Kiana said, we got sent a big packet, and that had, I think it was 5 or 6 days a week. You were doing weightlifting or some sort of sprints and plyos and just conditioning, getting you ready for the season.
I tried like a bunch of different sports when before I hit high school, but I wasn't any good at any of those. So by the time I got to high school, I just stuck with hockey. So yeah, the off seasons when I was in high school were, as I started to get older, we were introduced to weight training like at the 14 or 16U level during the season, which was nice because that gave us the foundations of what lifting and different types of weight exercises look like. And then I started to really like it a lot. When you start to see like how your performance on the ice is affected by what you do off ice, it becomes a little bit addicting. So I would make my brother every day drive me to AK Performance when we had it in the summertime. And I liked doing, it was something that I liked doing. So that's kind of the nice thing is if you have something like another sport or whatever that it's what you like to do, then I encourage you to do that. But definitely try as many things as you can and figure out what works for you and what doesn't. But by the time I got to college, like even before I got to college, they would send you a summer workout program like after you say you're gonna play there. Much like what I'm sure they had. So there was, and I wasn't that disciplined with it, but yeah, when you get to college, it's a lot of off-season training, and when you don't do the workouts, it's not fun for anyone. Trust me, take my word for it.
They're not necessarily, I was gonna say, they're not necessarily required, like they can't require it, but it's required. It's like if you don't,
Highly suggested.
if you don't
Yeah.
do them, you are going to, you're gonna hate your first few weeks, basically. Because then you're thrown right into it, expecting you to be doing all of those things, and if you don't, then the body's just gonna really feel it, and you're gonna be behind, honestly, like if you don't do those things, you're gonna be behind, so. It's not required, but it's basically, you're voluntold to do it.
I'm gonna say I'm like the complete opposite of everybody up here. I am like perpetually lazy, and so I like never worked out in the summer. I'm not saying it was great for me, or like I would go do it, but I hated going because I just wanted my break from hockey. So I played softball pretty competitively, and I just wanted to play softball. I needed my break from hockey, and so I think that like having something else to do is super important, whether it be another sport or just another hobby in general. I despise going to the gym still today. I showed up to college every year and had to do extra workouts because I always failed workout testing, but that's something I signed up for because I love my summers here. So I wanted to be outside with my friends, I wanted to go bike riding, I wanted to play softball. And I think all those things are important, and I think that it's important to continue to just be active, whether or not you're in the gym doing a whole bunch of weights or, other activities. I think it's important for you to just be not sitting on the couch all the time, so.
You still did a lot of that.
Yeah, oh yeah. Oh,
We're gonna-
Scott has a
No,
question.
there was somebody at the door.
Oh.
You're good.
We're gonna switch to like the recruiting process for college for you guys. So what was the recruiting process like for you? How were you able to market yourselves? How did the contacts happen between you and the college coaches that you were talking to? And any information that you might have with your experience for recruiting.
So for mine, our coach was Mark Weber, and he set up these college tours, and we would go for, I don't know, it was close to a week. And he would set up games with all like local teams and tell all the college, so we'd go to like Minnesota, Wisconsin. We did one on the East Coast too. But we would let all the coaches know that we were gonna be there and be playing one of the local teams, and they would come watch our game, and then they would get a tour of their campus. So each trip we toured like, I don't know, 10 different college campuses. So over those 3 trips, we saw 30 different colleges, met those coaches. They got to watch us play. And then in addition to that, we went to tournaments in just highly scouted areas, so Minnesota, Wisconsin, East Coast. And we would email the coaches of the schools that we thought we might be interested in, let them know, hey, we're gonna be playing at this tournament, at, you know, these dates, like this is the team I play for, I'm interested in your school, and just to, you know, let them know that we are gonna be there. And but that's basically so that's how we like started our contact with those coaches, because then they'd email you back, and then they'd, you know, some of them would talk to you, like meet you after the game and talk to you a little bit about their program and whatnot. And so that was just kind of how you got your foot in the door as far as talking to the coaches, and then we would just, I don't know, you kind of go from there, and they come see you at more tournaments if they want to come see you play more, and so that's how we did it when I was in high school.
Danae, did you have to contact your coaches on the East Coast, or how did you pick Endicott?
I actually made the connection to Endicott from going to the Anchorage Showcase Camp and hearing from Brent Hill there, which was Nona's coach at RPI. And he was super helpful. I can't remember, I know that he just kind of extended his contact information to people who were at the camp, and was like, if you ever need help, let me know. And he became a huge advocate for me when I was figuring out my recruiting process. I spoke with him frequently about what was a realistic, you know, possibility for me, and he helped me kind of understand, okay, these are the colleges I should be looking at. And yeah, he was a really good help to me throughout that process, and he actually recommended Endicott to me because he coached with Andy McPhee, who was the Endicott head coach. So yeah, that was how it was for me. It's a lot about, you know, going to camps, going to tournaments. I mean, obviously there's no scouts flying up to Alaska, so in, you know, as many as you can go to that, you know, makes sense for your family, you know, that's what I would do. And don't be afraid to, when Brent Hill gives everybody at the camp his contact information, don't be afraid to give him a call, because he, you know, or us or anybody, because we're here to help, and that's what we truthfully want to do. And it may just end up being your college choice.
I also talked to Brent Hill. He was coaching at Merrimack, which is a D1 school in New Hampshire. Or not, Massachusetts, are very close. So he was coaching at Merrimack, sorry, I was between Merrimack and Bemidji, but I met them both of the coaches at the camp. But he was really great. I decided not to go there, but I was still able to talk to him and chat with him about where I should go play juniors. He was open and had no issue talking about that. So I just think everybody, like, it's a really small world. Like, you're gonna realize you know everybody. Like, I went to New Hampshire, and the captain of the boys team there, his best friend was Billy, my parents. Like, it's a tiny world in the hockey community, so you just need to remember that, of like, if you're rude to this coach, like, so many others will know. So you just need to make sure that you're like being polite always. I think I started emailing coaches my sophomore year of high school. I frankly am a bit of a little nerd, and my mom is very, very, very organized. So I did a bunch of research of like things that I thought was important. Like, I didn't want to go to Wisconsin, or like, that was a far too big of a school. I frankly couldn't, but that was a massive school. So it's like, I knew that I didn't want to go to a really big school in a really big town. And I knew like there were certain areas that I liked or didn't want to go or whatever. And so I was able to put all that into a spreadsheet, and I probably started off with like 30 coaches that I started emailing. And then you just, as you talk to them, you realize you don't really vibe with them, or you look more into it or whatever. And so it just narrows down from there. But I would say have pretty, like, be open to whatever, because then like we also did those college tours. And I remember there was one that was a week and a half long in Minnesota. We toured 2 colleges a day and then go play a game at night. And we went up to Bemidji and toured Bemidji, and I was sick that day. I was like, I'm not gonna go to Bemidji anyways, I'm not gonna tour it. And well, I ended up going there. So it's like, you just gotta keep your mind open of like, it could be completely different than what you think online. Like if you have any interest at all or anything at all, just keep your mind open of like where you may wanna go.
I guess for you two, you were at prep school, you were at the academy. How did the recruiting process work for you guys? You guys were out on the East Coast, you were there, you played 70 games a year. Like how did that work with contact with you guys?
I think that, we definitely had the exposure go on
Yeah.
our side. I mean, every tournament you went to, every like just basic game you went to, there was coaches from everyone you imagine at it. So, I think if anything, that's your biggest thing is what you're gonna want is exposure as, Lisa said, there's no one coming to Alaska. So go to those tournaments if you can. And kind of like what they were saying, the coaches that are interested, they'll reach out, they'll talk to your coach after the game, they'll start sending you emails, and then on the day that you're able to receive phone calls and actually speak with them legally, that's what you want, but you need that exposure for sure.
The down part of that is like, there's coaches at every game, so you can't have an off game. Or if, you're a goalie, and so my best friend who is from here went to Naha with me. She was just as good as the senior goalie, but she was a junior, right? But the senior goalie hadn't been placed yet in a college, so Courtney almost never got play until, they found a spot for the senior goalie. So it's really hard, and trying to be consistent in your game, being polite all the time. They're watching how you guys warm up at the rinks. They're watching how you guys carry yourselves off ice, with your teammates, with your coaches. They're watching how you act on the bench. And so these are all just things to keep in mind. You don't have to be perfect all the time. They want to see personality. But for me, I think at Naha, when we would go and play at a college for a weekend, we had 2 buses. So one bus would go back to Naha, and that's all the girls that are already committed. They get to go back home. The rest of the group who was uncommitted had to go and do a college tour after our games. So, it was great though, because there was times when I would go to no offense if anybody ever goes to Quinnipiac, but I was like, brand new rink, top of the line facilities, like brand new dorms. They had a movie theater in the freshman dorms. It was awesome. And I was like, I'm going here. And then I just didn't really like the coach that well. And so it's just kind of things that you don't even think about, but you have to keep your mind open to. And then also for me, I was a labor crew or commitment. I had probably committed when I was already home in March, and everybody else in my class had already committed. But my coach never kind of vouched me for D3 schools. So I was kind of on the border between playing Division I and Division III. And he only spoke on my behalf to Division I schools. And I only probably had 1 or 3 options, if that. And so I'm lucky that I ended up going to RPI. I loved it, but I never even had the option to even talk with Division III schools. And I maybe would have went Division III if I had the opportunity to. But again, just keep your options open.
I think one of the things too that we'll have another one of these roundtable discussions on is the whole compliance aspect of college recruiting and how that goes into contact periods and when you can contact coaches, when coaches can contact you, how they can follow up, all of the things that go into how you can continue to be eligible to play college hockey. We'll run into that one in a totally separate topic. We can spend another hour and a half talking about that. I guess now that after we're done with recruiting, we're gonna move on to what your day looked like in college. So what was a normal scheduled day in college for you guys between hockey, workout programs, and school? And what were some of the difficulties that you had balancing some of your time?
I don't know if there was much time. Typical day, Monday through Friday was class from 8 to 2, 8 to 3, full class. And then from about 3:30 to about 6, you were at the rink for, pre-practice discussion, practice, post-practice discussion. And then you had about, an hour after that with weightlifting. And then about 7 or 8 o'clock came around and you had some time to eat, and then you had time to study. That was Monday through Friday. And then you had your weekends. Saturdays were usually your games, which if you had home games, those would take about 4 hours of your day, because you have to be there 2 hours early, 2 hours for the game, about an hour after. And then if you were traveling, which could be anywhere to an hour away to 8 hours away, that's time you have to, you know, am I gonna bring schoolwork or you do schoolwork on the bus? So we're allowed 1 day off a week from NCAA, 1 day. So.
And then traveling's all by bus, you
All
don't
by
get to
bus.
take a plane.
Yeah.
We had to take a plane, but that's because if we drove, it would have been like 15 hours to some places, so.
I guess, Danae, or did you guys have a different experience with Division III? Other than that, pretty much the same.
Yeah, it was pretty much the same. I mean, like in season, you were lifting twice a week and you would have to figure out how to fit that in, like, between classes, you could choose, you know, which time worked for you, but you would show up, and have to lift, then maybe right after that, have to run right to class, all sweaty. Luckily I went to like an athletic school, so most people were also in the same boat, but, yeah, it was, practice every single day of the week, games Friday, Saturday, off Sunday. Beyond just that aspect of it though, when you are a college athlete, there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of other activities that you're obligated to do as well, as far as like community service and volunteering and representing the school and doing all of those things. So you're not only trying to get your college degree, you're also trying to perform well each weekend, which means training throughout the week and practicing well throughout the week. And then also representing your school by showing up to the food bank or doing all these other things. So there's it's a lot, but if you enjoy it, it's not bad.
Yes, for you, knowing that you went to the opposite side of the spectrum, where you went to a highly academic school and played a sport at the same time and had a job. So how did you balance your schedule?
Yeah, I again had to do extra workouts because I hated to work out. So I was usually doing what we called, and this probably isn't appropriate, but RPI fat camp. Like that's what our team called it. And it's like, oh, you gotta run the stairs at 6 a.m. and then you go to class 8 to 2. And then I actually, you know, RPI is a private school. It's not cheap to go to, and I did not receive an athletic scholarship. All of my scholarship monies are academic. And so I had to work 2 jobs while I was at RPI. So I worked part-time in financial aid and then part-time in the athlete gym. And so that's actually when I would take advantage of doing my homework. Because, you know, so I would go to class till 2, work till about 4:15 to 5:45 practice, 6:15 lift, get done, shower at 8, try to catch the dining hall before it closes. And then I don't want to do homework after that. So I would try to do my homework while I was working. But one thing I will say, and maybe this is to the parents, is like one thing for me, I fully utilized the financial aid office to my total advantage. And so I got to know all of the ladies that worked there. They let me know any scholarships that I was actually eligible to receive. And then that was extra book money, housing money, things that weren't getting utilized or taken care of by other RPI students. They always were super helpful. And I think that like whenever these young ladies decide to go play college or even just go to college in general, reach out to the financial aid office and see like what any sort of scholarship you might be eligible for, or they might be eligible for, because it's super helpful.
Well, with that, I think I ended up getting full ride because I had academic and athletic. But it's like I ended up doing better academically my senior year than they thought, so they took some away because it filled in academically. So it's like coaches want to see you doing really good because they only get so many scholarships and they can split it up how they want, but they only get so many and not everybody can get that money, right? So then they were able to take some of the money that they were going to give to me, which I just filled in because I did really good at school. And they were able to provide it to somebody else. So it's like coaches want to see you doing really good at school because they know that then they might be able to use theirs a little bit differently, or like you will be able to afford, like it just helps everybody. And it's another thing that they don't have to worry about once you're there. If you're good in school, they don't have to worry about you being eligible or getting the grades or anything like that. And so that's a big part of it too.
Top of that, you have to do good in grade, do well in your grades in order to be eligible to play. Yes, you do.
We had grade checks every week and study hall every week on top of everything else they've already talked about. We had study hall that you have to go to for a couple of hours, a couple times a week too, so.
Oh, and your coach will sit outside your classroom, make sure that they see you
How
walking
you
in the
go to
door.
class.
I mean, it's like for real, for real.
Yeah.
I guess the next question for you guys is, obviously you guys had extensive playing careers before you went to college. When you showed up to college, what was one thing that you were not prepared for going in, or that you didn't have an idea was coming?
I think the time management thing was tough. I knew clearly it was gonna be at a certain point, it's your job to play college hockey and go to school. So I was the same thing, I was 12 or 8 to 12 class, and then I was at the rink from like 12:30 to 5, and then you have to go do homework, all the things. On Saturdays, we would have video and a pregame walk, where if you didn't skate, or if you were playing that night, you had a pregame skate that was an hour long. And then you would go to the game, and then you would be there 2 hours, all the things. On Sunday, then Denise, right, like I would go and coach 3-year-old and 4-year-old little girls, and I would go and recover from the week. So it's like, you understand that it's hard and there's a lot of time that you have to devote to it, but it's like, you get like 6 hours to yourself. Like, it seems like, with all of just like how tired you are, and it's totally worth it. It's awesome, it's great, and every part of it's amazing, but I think I clearly knew that it was going to be a lot of work and I wasn't gonna get a lot of time to myself, but it was like a shock a little bit to like how much time it takes to like do well in school and play on the weekends and like do a good job and take care of your body.
I remember at one of the like college campus tours that we went on, one of the coaches told us there's 3 things: school, hockey, and social life, and you can only pick 2. And I think that's pretty true. You got it, and which, if you're playing hockey, the other one's gotta be school, right? So there's, that was some good advice. We're going into next.
I think along like the coaching style, like around the hockey aspect of it too is, they have your whole day planned out, your whole practice planned out, So before practice, they're gonna go over your entire practice and what you're gonna do. And so you better pay attention, because when you get on the ice and those drills are coming, you better pay attention and you do it right, because you get 0 chances to mess up, because they just spent, 45 minutes to an hour going over that. So I think that was the biggest difference for me coaching wise, was that everything was planned out and you had an opportunity to know what you were doing ahead of time, so you better come prepared. So
I think another difference from playing here and then going to college and playing is that you're competing for your spot every practice. You're not, if you have an off week, you might not be on power play that weekend games. You might get kicked off penalty kill. You might not play, you might not dress. You don't dress, like your spot is not guaranteed. They'll post a list, before your games of who's playing and who's dressing, and it can change week to week. So I think that was something, really different that I wasn't used to coming from here.
For me, the biggest difference or shock was obviously I grew up playing for Coney and Luther for a super long time, and so adjusting to a different coach and culture and team dynamic was the toughest thing for me. I think that goes to show how valuable it is sometimes to put yourself in other scenarios where you're playing outside or playing with different coaches, because it was a hard thing that I had to adjust to. And I enjoyed it, but I think one of the other biggest things was the dynamic of the team was not what I was expecting, because I had such a great group of girls around me growing up. And then when you get to college, it's very, very different. It's girls that are on their own for their first time probably, or coming from all different parts of the world and country. So it's very difficult to, and that's a huge thing that is important as well when you're picking a school or talking to coaches, is like, what type of culture is your coach going to promote, and how does that affect how you perform and how you're gonna, be able to build on your experience in college? Because that's the biggest part of it. I mean, you spend 80 hours a week with your team and your coaches, so you better make sure you like it.
Anything to add to that before we move on?
One thing I wasn't prepared for is probably like distractions, like there's plenty of them in college. I mean, if I'm being completely honest, but like, I was gonna hop on with what Danae said, is you're coming together with a group of totally new people. I went to Naha, I grew up with my friends here, and then you're just thrown into a completely different culture where, there's gonna be days where someone doesn't have to work half as hard as you, and they're the best player on your team, and you're busting your butt every day working for a spot and doing all the extra things. You're trying to get that spot on the position, and to be able to just get on the lineup for the day. And it's gonna be harder for you to just have to like really adjust to that, and there's gonna be coaches' favorites, there's gonna be days where you just really don't feel like going to anything, and you just have to keep working through it. I mean, it wasn't hard for me to be away from home, but it was hard for me to not, and I wasn't even like the best player on my team on any teams that I played on, but it's hard to, not want to go, you don't get to go outside and go to the lacrosse game that everybody else is going to, homecoming, because you have to be at the library. So I think it's just hard to make sure that you stay focused, which sucks sometimes, but it is what it is.
I guess again, having gone through all this before growing up, you guys had parents that helped bring you to the rink every day. I guess, is there any advice that you would give now that you've gone through the process to the parents that we have here today?
I think the biggest thing for me is my dad was also a coach, so I lived there in Coney, and my dad. Yeah, no, you're good. He was my D coach, so I actually worked with him probably the most. But he had that good relationship, and it was great. But always after every single season, no matter how old I was, when I was 9, when I was 15, he asked me if I still enjoyed hockey. And that was like a huge thing, because it is so much of your life when you are a kid. And so you need to enjoy what you're doing. And if you're not enjoying it, like, why do it? So I think after every single season, he would ask me if I enjoyed it. And of course, like, there are some seasons where it was tough, but yeah, I loved it. And he was always prepared to, like, his entire life. He was on the Gold Kings, he played college hockey, like, he played junior, he coached his entire life as hockey. He was like, if you don't like it, don't do it. So I think having that open mind of like, you just gotta find a way to make them enjoy it. And if they're not enjoying it, like, maybe switch it, or like find something new. Like Nona, I didn't love doing camps. I did not like it. I wanted a break from hockey. And sometimes you gotta, like, honestly, sometimes taking that break is gonna make you that much better the next season. Like, you just gotta figure out what's right for you and your family or whatever. Like, your route to getting where you, like, it's gonna look very different. So I think that was like a huge part of just like making sure I'm enjoying it, because there were times where like, I really don't want to go to that camp. They're like, cool, we won't. And that was like very, very helpful.
Yeah, I think for parents, like, for one thing for me is my family never wanted it more than I did. They just wanted what I wanted, and they were just gonna support me through it. My mom doesn't know anything about hockey, and neither does my dad. And so, I mean, they were not the parents like yelling in the stands, and I mean, they just, and there's a time and place for all of that. But I just think that as a parent, you can't want it more than your kid wants it. And then you just have to make sure that they're enjoying it, or you gotta, change the tides a little bit. But yeah, we're really lucky that our parents were just like, whatever you wanna do, do it, but you kinda gotta figure it out yourself too. So we're here for you, but you're gonna be sitting outside of Safeway selling raffle tickets, because we need a sponsor this year. So, just be supportive and, yeah.
Aaron, how about you? I know your dad was coach.
Yes. My dad was a little tough sometimes, and so I think my advice to parents would be, I don't know. Just make sure that your kid, like that you're helping to build their confidence. That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah, anybody else?
I think Nona said it best. You can't want it more than they want it. Like I said, I enjoyed working out, I enjoyed doing those things. Kiana shot, well, I don't know, you said your dad made you shoot 100 points a day. So, I mean, but
I did as much as
but
I didn't want to shoot.
actually, I wish my dad would have made me do that too, actually. But no, I think, yeah, like your kid, I know there's like, you know, a financial commitment to it, but the best thing that my parents ever did was, you know, leave it open to me to make the decision. And whether I went on and played college hockey or not, my parents gave me, like, growing up and playing hockey, like, gave me an amazing experience, and I never felt like I had to go do that. It was my choice that I wanted to do that, so.
I'd say on the opposite side of that though, then you guys have to know like how much you want it. And if you really want to do it, you need to know that you have to put in, you have to shoot the $100 and you have to go and work out and you have to do all these things. It's of course like finding that balance, of, like what you enjoy and what you need to do to like get to where you want to be.
Yeah, and I think part of that too is making sure you girls know that like your parents are putting up a huge sacrifice after work all day to get you to the rink to, you know, pay for camps and things like that. And so I think, you know, there are days when I would cry after practice just because I was like, that really freaking sucked. But, you know, my parents are, and my aunts, they help a lot too. Sometimes Coney even had to drive me to practice sometimes, but it's just and then think about your coaches too. They're volunteering their time. And so it's time, effort, and money. And you guys just have to show up and give it your best and have a good attitude every day. And that's really all your family, your friends, your teammates, and the coaches are asking of you.
I'll add one more thing to parents is ask questions. Like if you don't know what to do, if you need, also be realistic. I think that's another good one is like my dad had these crazy high dreams for me, and it takes, you know, a Brent Hill to kind of put the realistic expectations out there for yourself and build confidence for what you're going to be realistically able to accomplish. But use your resources, talk to coaches. We see you girls all the time. We can help you understand where you're at, where you fit, what you need to do to get to a different level or what that might look like. And also connect you with our resources too. So don't be afraid to reach out, and parents maybe like find out what your child's goals are first before you reach out to us, because we want it to be their decision first.
Thank you guys. All right, well, we made it through. So now we're at the point where we're gonna open this up for questions from you guys. So girls, parents, whatever you got, throw it out.
What point did you guys transition, like what age did you guys transition to your position you played in college, or did you guys go from forward?
Well, we're D heavy on this panel, I'll tell you that right now. But I guess nobody could probably answer that question.
The week before my first college game, I was moved to forward. And we were playing Wisconsin, the national champion. And so I was too slow as a defenseman when I got to college. My feet weren't fast enough in order to keep up with the speed that it needed to be. And so they thought for me, the week before we were going to Wisconsin, someone got hurt. They were like, we're gonna move you up to the fourth line. Do you know just how to go stand on the breakout wall? And I was like, yeah, I can do that. And they were like, we just need you to like get going, like just go for it. Go forward, check your heart out, like go run around like a chicken with your head cut off and go pressure the puck. And then I ended up playing 4 years as forward. They never moved me back, and I never scored any goals.
It's a brutal game to start.
I know, but yeah,
Well,
but I played both actually. So when I was at Lathrop here, I played forward, again, I was too slow to be deep. And then when I was at Naha, I played defense the whole time. So I just play both. I mean, I think both are good for me because then I was really aware positionally where I thought everyone should be all the time. But yeah, I mean, 18.
I was defense my whole life. I wanted nothing to do with forward, because when you're defense, you can also be an offensive defense. So if you had the chance, you could rush it, get the glory of a goal, but then you can go back to defense. So I was defense. I never
Kiana
wanted to
scored
score.
all the goals as defense.
I like defense.
I was defense my whole life, and I wish I probably would have played forward a little more because if you told me to go play forward, I would forget everything I knew about hockey. Like post up, what's that? Get on the wall, like, I don't know, it just stressed me out. And so I, did not do like Kiana and rush the puck because that, I don't know, was scary. And so I think it's good to have experience playing both positions. And then you can figure out which one you're, you're gonna play for your own.
I wouldn't pigeonhole yourself into a position. You guys are still, like, to be honest, like Dana Coleman, I don't know if you guys know Dana Coleman. She is from here, played at University of Vermont. She's your age, Lisa?
1 year.
Yeah. Dana Coleman played D her whole life and then is like in top 5. They moved her up to center for 1 game when she was like sophomore. Now she's like top 3 scorer all time on Vermont. I mean, it's possible to move and to change and adjust. You just have to be open to it. I mean,
Yeah.
how many goalies do you ever? None of us are goalies, so we can't speak to that.
Yeah, and if you look at the way the game is played now, positions are fluid, honestly, so knowing all of them is important, but if you're good at winning faceoffs, you can just be center your whole life.
Anybody else got any questions? Got it.
How much self-confidence did you guys have to give yourselves to keep going forward in like college hockey at any time you were feeling down?
That is really-
That's a sad line.
Yes.
I think it comes from everywhere. It comes from, mostly yourself, but your coaches and your parents as well. But I think the way that you stay confident is continue to do the things that put you in a position to be successful. You can't really be confident in your abilities if you just show up and I practice all week and, put in half effort and then try and play a game and be the top goal scorer or whatever it might be. So put yourself in a position to find success. And then the other thing for me specifically, I think that helped is you don't have to be good at everything. You just have to be good at winning faceoffs or I don't know, anything. Like pick one thing that is gonna be something that you do consistently every single time. Your coach can count on you to do it, no matter what you're on the ice, and then build off of that. If you're super fast, be really fast, but be fast every time you hit the ice. If you can be consistent and pick something that you're good at and focus on that, then build your confidence off of that.
That's a good point. Anybody else?
Off ice, it's hard, to be honest. Like Danae said, there's been times when I've wanted to quit so many times. And I think for me, it was just, I felt like so many people had opened so many doors for me in order to get where I was, that I was now not only doing it for myself, but also for them, just because I didn't. And you don't have to, feel like you can't let anybody down, because that'll actually like make you feel even worse if you're not fulfilling or living up to any sort of standard that you set for yourself. So I think for me, it's just, just think about like what's important to you, why is this important to you, and then, just take it day by day. There's so many resources now within your teams, your organizations, and on college campuses that if you need to talk to anybody, you can. And there's so many people that are willing to listen that, sometimes it just feels good to vent, right? To people who you don't have to see every day, your teammates. So I would say, just find somebody who wants to listen.
I
I think I gained a lot of confidence. I was taking myself far too seriously. I had like a strict pregame ritual or whatever that I did, and then I just like tossed it all away and we would play like 2-touch pregame and listen to whatever. It's like when I started having fun with it, I was more confident, I was more consistent, I just played better. So it was like, I mean, it's a game in the end, right? So I think taking yourself too seriously can hurt you at a certain point. So like once I started having fun with it again, I played far better, I had way more confidence, all the things. And then I think with that, it's like I was having fun with it. So then when I did make the little mistakes, I wasn't beating myself up about it. And I just got back and hustled back to like back check or whatever. Like you just make up for it and you just don't hang on to those mistakes. And I think building habits like that and just trying to like remind yourself that it's not the end of the world if you make a bad pass or whatever, like it just all of it kind of adds up to.
Anybody else got any questions?
Yeah, I would say, as you guys are on the other side of it now, and you have finished college and you're working at a professional field, do you have any thoughts for the girls as far as, I think a lot of times when we play a sport, that becomes who we are, becomes our identity versus who you are now as an adult.
I mean, I still like coach and play and all of that, so it's still a very big part of my life, but I think a big part of it is like going to college, I had no idea what I wanted to do, and yeah, you're right, you need to realize that you're going to college for something you're gonna do for the rest of your life, and you might not play hockey or coach hockey or do anything after. I think you need to like branch out and kind of take other classes and do other things and see what interests you entirely outside of class, because like I could have taken all the same classes as other girls in my age group and been fine and just gone through it, been okay, but like I wouldn't have done what I did or like gotten what I did, like gotten the degree that I did or anything. So I think it's like you need to fully think for yourselves outside of that, what you enjoy entirely. If hockey wasn't a thing, my mom always told me, if hockey wasn't a thing, would you enjoy going to school? And like that's what you need to think about of your school and your major and everything else, because it's like you could get hurt and hockey's not an option anymore. Like literally anything could happen and you're not playing it anymore, you're not coaching it anymore, anything like that. So I think you need to still go about your life as if you're not gonna play hockey tomorrow, would I still be happy with like where I'm going to school, what I'm going to school for, what I'm doing, all the things.
Yeah, I actually got injured like my sophomore season and couldn't play, and it was, they tell you that, like, if you get injured and you can't play hockey, is this still where you wanna go? And you never think it's gonna happen, and then it does, and then you start wondering, oh crap. But I think to the point of like, even if you quit hockey tomorrow, hockey would still be a part of you. You have all of these values and things that you've learned from playing the sport. In any sport, you'll have that. But I think we encourage for you guys as much as possible is to just do more than just hockey, because hockey is a part of you. It's not who you are. And so that's my only takeaway from that, really. And then, as you get older and you do become a professional, I still really like to identify as a hockey player, because I think it's, a good, people like athletes, people like, people that have an experience in sports and team, stuff. So, but now I'm also a, account executive and like whatever. So there's more aspects to you than just being a hockey player. And you should be, engaging in that as well.
I'm gonna cut you short.
No, I'm gonna wrap it up.
Okay.
Yeah. We appreciate you guys coming today, and listening to these guys. First off, give them a hand. Nice job. I think one of the things that came out tonight is that we're gonna have to do this more often. And then the second piece to this is that, you girls are still going through the process, and there's a ton of resources and tools that are out there at your guys' disposal. These girls are here in the community every day. So if you need contact information or you'd like to reach out to them, just let us know, and we'll get you hooked up. So again, thanks for coming tonight. We appreciate it. Have a good rest of your evening. Thanks. You're welcome.
You guys can.